Who says there's nothing to play for Week 18 of the NFL? Not a lot, to be honest, but it ain't nothing. One wild card slot up for grabs headlines the AFC, and the NFC North and the 1 seed headlines the NFC. How important will this Detroit-Minnesota game be? Well, history tells us this. 1v5 since 1978 when the playoffs expanded to 5 teams. The 1 seed, better win percentage, more Super Bowl appearances, and way more Super Bowl titles. The 5 seeds, only 3 to the big game and 2 Lombardis to speak of. So that's what's at stake. Welcome back, folks. Tommy Jordan, Lige Douzable, and Brian McFadden joining us here to talk a little NFL Week 18. So, Dooz, I'm going to start with you here. Yeah. We saw Detroit beat Minnesota narrowly, gave them their first loss of the season back in Week 6. What interests you most about Week 18?
It's Sam Darnold, and I know me and B and Mac have talked about this ad nauseum, and people were waiting for the other shoe to drop, but the Minnesota Vikings, Tommy, are winning games because of Sam Darnold and not in spite of. And I think a lot of people going into the season were going to say if they had any chance to win any games and go to the playoffs, it was going to be in spite of Sam Darnold. But if the season ended right now, he'd be a top 5 MVP candidate for me. I mean, the way he's been able to play football, and I think an aspect of his game that people aren't talking about enough is his athletic ability, right? The ability to get out of some pressure situations. I don't think Kevin O'Connell has had that at the quarterback position. And he's been deadly accurate over the middle of the field on those deep dig routes. If you're in any type of zone coverage, the way his offensive line has protected up front, he's able to go through 3 progressions and know where to go with the football. We've really seen him elevate his game since he kind of had that lull after the Jacksonville game where he threw 3 interceptions in that game. Since then, he's protected the football really well. Did have an interception last week. But I love his maturation in Kevin O'Connell's offense. So that's what I want to watch in this game versus the Detroit Lions. Can Sam Darnold power them and elevate them up enough to beat the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, Leger, I'm right there with you. If you go back to the first meeting, 31-29 win for the Detroit Lions. If you look at the flow of that ball game, both offenses had success against the said defenses, right? But what led to the win for the Detroit Lions was a costly mistake by Sam Darnold. Brian Branch came up with a huge interception, potentially in scoring range for the Minnesota Vikings. And when you give the Detroit Lions extra possessions like they did in that first meeting, that offense is too good to slow down. They're going to cash in on those opportunities. So that's the matchup that I'm watching, because even if you go back to watching the Detroit Lions against the San Francisco 49ers, remember in the first half of that ball game, their defense didn't have an answer for Brock Purdy. But when you give them an opportunity to create a turnover, that's where they break loose from you. And that's what we saw for their defense, because they've been dealing with so many injuries on all 3 levels of their defense. The thing about them is that they're very, very opportunistic, and sometimes they will give way.
The Lions do enter as a 2.5-point favorite in this game. This Lions team, though, bruised up all season long, a whopping 21 players on IR right now, mainly on defense. This offense, of course, remains exciting, but Lige, can this Lions team win a Super Bowl with this defense?
I believe they can, and I have a stat courtesy of my guy, Doug Clawson, who does an amazing job for him. I had a real good conversation with him. And when you look at this Detroit Lions defense, more specifically, Jordan, in the month of December, they're giving up 30-plus points per game in the month of December. No team has won a Super Bowl doing that. But there's a caveat to that. When you look at that offense, and B-Mac just alluded to it, they're averaging 37.5 points per game on offense in the month of December. Let me say that one more time. They're averaging nearly 40 points a game on offense. So, yes, they've been hurt with a lot of injuries. Yes, B-Mac, you talked about it, right? Their defense has been very opportunistic, and that's the thing with this Lions defense. Kirby Joseph was a snub for the Pro Bowl, but don't worry, Kirby, you're most likely going to be an All-Pro. We saw it last week versus San Francisco 49ers, right? They're going to give up a lot of yards. They're going to give up a lot of points. But if they turn you over, I have more faith in the Detroit Lions offense to go toe-to-toe with anybody on the offensive side of the ball. And that's why I think even with this defense, with all the injuries that have occurred on that side of the ball, with them being opportunistic, and we've seen it the last 2 weeks, if they're able to get 1 or 2 turnovers a game, that's another possession for the offensive side. And right now, nobody has proven that they can stop that Detroit Lions offense.
Well, for me, you talked about the month of December and some of the woes. Let's look at the teams they played against in December, right? Chicago, Green Bay, Buffalo, San Francisco. One high-level quarterback and good. Let's look at some of the offenses in the National Football League and the NFC potentially that could get into the playoffs. Right? When you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they got a franchise quarterback in Jalen Hurts. And you can say whatever you want to say in terms of criticizing Jalen Hurts. He is a baller. Not to mention 2 wide receiver ones in A.J. Brown and Smitty. And then, of course, you can throw in Saquon Barkley for sake of argument. Look at Baker Mayfield if they get into the offense. Remember, Baker Mayfield did numbers on the Detroit Lions defensively when they were healthy in the month of September. Look at what they have offensively with Baker and Mike Evans and Bucky Irvin. So you have some high-power offenses that will take advantage of some of the miscues that Brock Purdy was not able to take advantage of, that Caleb Williams wasn't able to take advantage of. There lies the concern for me, because you can get through in regular season football. But when you're playing January football, good on good, the mishaps that you can sweep under the rug in regular season, you can't sweep under the rug in playoffs because the rug ain't big enough.
B-Mac, I push back on that a little bit, right? Because the Detroit Lions are the only team in the NFL to have 6 40-point games. And you alluded to some of the teams they played in December. I mean, Green Bay is a quality playoff team, right? San Fran, when they're healthy and have weapons, they still can put up points on anybody. And when you look at the totality of this, they're in the hardest division in football.
Movie camera, hey, Cowboys fans. Today, we're diving into a hot topic that could shape the future of our beloved Dallas Cowboys. As the season winds down and with the team already eliminated from playoff contention, all eyes are turning to head coach Mike McCarthy and whether he'll remain at the helm next year. But hold on, I'll share the key point of this news after 50 seconds. In the meantime, let's think, what's the best direction for the Cowboys as they rebuild? Stick with me because today's discussion is packed with insights you won't want to miss. 3 o'clock setting the scene, the 2024 season has been a roller coaster for Cowboys fans. After a disappointing early exit from the NFC wild card last year, expectations were high for a bounce-back season. Instead, the team has struggled with inconsistency, finishing with fewer than 10 wins for the first time in years. Injuries to key players added to the challenges, leaving the roster stretched thin from the very start. Now, with just 1 game left, the focus is shifting from the field to the sidelines, where questions about McCarthy's future are heating up. Fire the big question. Will Jerry Jones, the Cowboys owner and general manager, stick with McCarthy or bring in fresh leadership? This decision is complicated, but one voice in the organization has made his stance clear: quarterback Dak Prescott. In a recent interview, Dak spoke highly of McCarthy, praising his ability to lead the team even under intense pressure. It's tough to do your job with all the speculation, but credit to him for keeping us ready to play and giving it his all, Dak said. He also expressed his support for McCarthy, highlighting the success they've shared over their 5-year partnership. Chart increasing McCarthy's record. Since taking over as head coach in 2020, McCarthy has had his highs and lows. He's led the Cowboys to the playoffs multiple times, but critics point to missed opportunities in big games and a lack of consistency. This year's struggles have added fuel to the fire, with many wondering if a fresh approach is needed to maximize the team's potential. Lightbulb, what's at stake for the future? Dak Prescott, now in his 30s and under a lucrative contract extension, believes McCarthy is the right coach to guide the team forward. For Dak, continuity could be key to returning the Cowboys to championship contention. But Jerry Jones has always been known for bold moves, and he may decide it's time for a change. If McCarthy stays, he'll need to deliver results quickly to silence the doubters. If he goes, the Cowboys will enter uncharted territory with a new coach and a roster in flux. Flex Biceps, now it's your turn. What do you think, Cowboys Nation? Should Mike McCarthy stay on as head coach, or is it time for a fresh start? How much weight should Jerry Jones give to Dak Prescott's support for McCarthy? And who would you like to see leading the Cowboys if a change does happen? Megaphone, join the conversation. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, share this video with fellow fans, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news, in-depth analysis, and all things Dallas Cowboys. American football, go Cowboys! Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.